Hello, Simone Denny here. Today, I want to talk to you about the power of discomfort, why we need to feel discomfort in order to grow, and why the idea of ignorance being bliss is not true when it comes to our personal development and growth. So I have a lot of people who come to me who want to find their purpose. They want to work out how they can step into their light, how they can feel more joy, how they can get on a path where they feel a deep sense of fulfillment and happiness in what they do. And often there is this idea that maybe there is this magic pill or this one worksheet or this one process that we can just get propelled into who we want to be in this on-demand lifestyle that we live in. But really, this idea that we can do our growth without being uncomfortable, it is really what I call ignorance is bliss when it comes to personal development. And ignorance is bliss in the short term because there's no pain when we don't have to do discomfort. It is comfortable. We get to stay where we are. We don't need to take any risk. We don't need to feel any feelings if we're staying where we are. But really, if we are to propel to the next level of ourselves, then discomfort is part of that process. So a lot of people that I work with, and even myself, I got through a lot of my life believing that I could override the things that happened to me in my past or my experiences that I had and just ignore that and just move forward and keep going. But the problem with that is that as we get older, our patterns get stronger and our responses feel more intense as we get older. So you might even recognize in yourself certain behavioral responses that you have that you maybe don't love about yourself, but you notice them playing out in a pattern. They might be the way you react when somebody says something. They might be a sense of self-sabotage where you become overwhelmed or you become controlling or you overly please others, whatever that response is. And you might get to a point where you're like, I'm really tired of playing out this pattern. And we kind of think that we can fix that by just ignoring it and having that ignorance of just going, I'll just move forward and do, lots of positive psychology stuff to think myself out of this. But really, from my experience in doing the deeper work, we need to go into the root cause of some of these feelings and these patterns and these behaviors, because these patterns are born out of a way that we learned to protect ourselves when we were younger. So maybe as a child or a teenager, we learned to survive our circumstance. And to do that, there were certain ways of protection that we learned, whether that was getting angry, the fight, flight, fawn response that or freeze, where we just withdrew and pulled back and avoided things. We know that we have these old patterns. And for us to really unhook from those, we have to be in them. We have to go and explore them and feel them. And I know that's not the answer that you want, because what we want is to get as far away as possible from some of those events and those feelings and those that sense of not having something. Maybe we felt afraid or we felt alone or we felt unloved. So why on earth would we want to go back into that place and feel those feelings again? But if you know, then you've worked with me for a long time, it is in the feeling that we do the healing. And it is a short-term pain for a longer-term gain to go and actually deeply process some of these feelings. So it's what I say, this ignorance is bliss idea. Ignorance is actually pain in the long term because we keep playing out these parts of ourselves that we have probably outgrown or feel outdated for us. So I'm really seeing this a lot in my program right now with Living with Purpose Women. This is not a paint by numbers, find your purpose, tick the boxes, and you're going to pop out and fully embrace this new version of yourself. This is a deep dive into who you are on all the layers, including your subconscious patterns and who you were as a child and what your experience was in that, what meaning you created out of that, what program you're still running from that, and how do we come in now as an adult and have a different perspective on that? How do we work with that part of ourselves with more compassion and more love and more understanding of what it was like for us in those hard times, whether that was at school for you or kindy or as a teenager where people didn't understand what it was like to be you. How do we come in and create a different meaning? And let me tell you, it is uncomfortable. And these processes that we work on, it shakes us to our core because we are questioning who we are without that program, without that protection, without our safety responses. And that can make us feel like we've just kind of popped out of a popcorn machine. We're like, oh my gosh, who am I now? And I'm seeing this with the woman now where they're like, oh, this is really intense work and it's not easy. But it is in the discomfort that we grow. It's in the discomfort that we get better. If we look at trees, and they've done a lot of studies on this, the trees that are in the wind grow strongest. Okay, so those, we've put the trees in the little greenhouse with a nice stake and all the protection, but it's actually the ones that are outside, feeling the sensation of the environment that have the thickest trunk, that have the most resilience. And the same is true if you think about yourself. If you're someone who likes to work out or do exercise, or you're an athlete, you know that feeling after you've pushed yourself that little bit further to stretch yourself into a feeling of pain, that what's happening really is that the muscles are tearing. You're actually tearing your muscles in this place of discomfort. But the beauty is that they're growing back stronger. Okay, they're growing back to give you another power, another strength to the next level of yourself. So I'm not saying you always have to go out and break yourself and force yourself into situations you don't want to be in. But I'm saying when it comes to our own personal growth, you have to be able to sit in the discomfort of being with all parts of yourself, even the parts that you don't like and the parts you don't want to remember. If you're really wanting to transcend that and grow and move beyond the parts that hold you back, then there has to be a level of discomfort. But what I will say is, like, moving into the women who've done my program, and we just had a call this week, a year or 2 years down the track, and these women are saying, yeah, wow, I'm actually noticing I can sit with this feeling for a little bit longer, or I can respond a little bit different between between the stimulus and my reaction to that. And then noticing a shift in themselves. Not always, because we're human and we're going to blow out, we're going to have big reactions, we're going to have regrets, and we're going to wish we didn't behave in a certain way. But over time, the more self-awareness we can bring in, the more that we can be with our uncomfortable feelings, the discomfort, the more easier it is for us to move through them and go to that next level. And we can see some of those things that sabotage us fall away because we're not held or bound by the burdens of our past or the old beliefs that we have. So even just thinking about what I'm saying now, and I know the resistance to go into discomfort, because it's our human nature to always move towards pleasure. That's how we're wired. That's how our survival brain is wired, to move away from pain and to move towards pleasure. That's what motivates us. But we need to override that in a safe way so that we can actually move through parts of ourselves that are outdated. So even out of curiosity, even just hearing what I'm saying right now for yourself is just practicing that curiosity. What are some of the behaviors and responses that I have that maybe I don't love about myself, that I can feel get in the way of my freedom in my relationships, or my courage in putting myself out there, or my response to my children when things are tough? what are those parts of myself that I know are old ways of being, old reactions, and maybe deep down there ways of protecting ourselves and keeping ourselves safe. And then just getting curious, what old parts of me need exploring that maybe I've been sweeping under the carpet or living in this ignorance is bliss place so that I don't ever have to go back and think about those times. But you know deep down that they're somewhere in you. They're imprinted in there. And just getting curious of like, what are some of those areas in me that I know probably need a little bit of a different perspective, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of healing in that space. Yeah, and that final question is like, which parts of my past are not complete? Which parts do I know that I feel some anger or rage or resentment for something or someone in my past that I'm holding on to, maybe in my heart, and maybe that gets expressed in a certain way. I know this isn't easy, especially when, we have had hard things happen that we don't want to go there. But as I said, our discomfort is actually the birthplace of growth. And it is what makes us able to step into that next version of ourselves. So as always, doing this with compassion, doing it with kindness, doing it maybe with support of somebody that can help you move through this process. And just know that we all have a story. We all have a past. We all have parts where our emotional needs weren't met. This is the human experience. If you have questions, let me know, or if you have comments, I'm always here. Just drop me a note and I'd love to connect with you. Take care.